I don't know. Maybe we'll all learn one day that government is not the answer to our problems. Government is the problem.
A state of emergency was declared in Australia overnight as firefighters continue battling massive, out-of-control brush fires.
Devastating fires in Australia, killing at least 18 people, forcing tens of thousands from their homes. Now, many of those residents, as well as tourists, are seeking shelter now from those flames on beaches.
As the year and the decade comes to an end, the country is burning. It's been labelled the worst fire season ever recorded. An apocalypse, a nightmare, and like looking into the gates of hell.
New South Wales will declare a state of emergency on Friday as the raging bushfires show no signs of slowing down.
As I produce this video, Australia burning is trending on Twitter. What's going on down under is truly horrific. I have no way of knowing if the reports are true, but we're being told that over 12 million acres have burned, around 500 million animals are dead, 18 people are dead and more are missing, and a heat wave is expected to roll in sometime tomorrow. And while this is tragic, it's emboldening and bringing more climate change activists even further out of the woodwork than they have been.
Global warming or climate change is happening. Mankind's efforts aren't helping matters, although they may not be instigating it. But
well, the scientists say they are.
Well, okay, we'll beg to differ on that.
Well, let's stop right there then, because that's the thing that interests me most. In what other areas do you beg to differ with science? What about when you're ill and you go to the doctors?
No, I'm not contradicting science. I mean, climate change is a natural phenomenon.
No, but you see, the scientists say it isn't, Mike.
So what's this radio host saying? That there is no naturally occurring climate change? That's absurd.
So I'm not going to patronise you by asking what your qualifications are, but I'm going to ask where you get your information from.
Well, by mere virtue of the fact of history, at once upon a time we used to skate on the Thames and we used to go out there to grow grapes. So
because the Thames froze over, you think the scientists have got climate change wrong?
No, they haven't.
So what then? No. Where do you get your information from? I'm genuinely fascinated to know, because I can't really agree to disagree until I understand.
That's not what I wanted to say.
No, but that's what I need you to say. So it's not because the Thames froze over. What was the other thing? Because we used to grow grapes.
Yeah. So
because we used to grow grapes here, climate science is wrong.
Climate scientists have clearly been wrong for the last 4 decades to such an extent that they had to change their entire terminology. First, they told us that we were entering a new and scary ice age. When that didn't pan out, they told us that global warming was going to kill us and that polar bears were dying. Then they had to change global warming to climate change because it's safe. Now, no matter what happens, they can't be wrong. See, the climate just changed. We told you, we're the scientists.
No, climate science isn't wrong.
So it is man-made then?
What mankind is doing isn't helping matters. Yes. I wouldn't go as far to say we are actually instigating it.
But the science does, you see. And while the science can be wrong, it can only really be superseded by better science.
The only problem is that what this guy is calling science is a coalition of charlatans who've been paid to say what the governments of the world want them to say. Climate alarmism is all about capitalizing on the fear of the many for the profit of the elite few. The religion of climatology is big business, and a few people stand to make a lot of money. It's a huge tax scam. That's all it is. Their answer is that we have to believe the so-called climate scientists and beg our political overlords, you know, those honest, reputable, highly respected individuals who would never capitalize on their monopoly on force and power. Climate cultists say we need to trust those politicians and get on our knees and beg them to please save the planet that they care so much about. Imagine that, begging the people on this earth each with a bigger carbon footprint than hundreds of us combined to steal more of our wealth and the wealth of our unborn children so that they can waste it as they pretend to do us all a major favor by cleaning up the earth. While we view the devastation that's being called the most horrific and apocalyptic fires in Australia's history, and as we contemplate the reality of what climate cultists are actually asking us to submit to, that is, getting the government to clean up our atmosphere by eliminating the man-inducing carbon emissions from Earth's atmosphere and stop dumping greenhouse gases into the air, let's take a quick look at what Australia's government spent their tax cattle's money on while their country was experiencing apocalyptic level fires on January 1st. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not the one who has a problem with fireworks displays, as long as they're funded voluntarily and without government coercion or extortion. But climate activists and governments are telling us that we need to give them money so that they can use that money to reduce carbon emissions, while they use that same money to expel more carbon emissions into the atmosphere in one New Year's night than thousands of us together will emit in an entire year. Little bit of a blatant hypocrisy going on there, don't you think?
A week-long state of emergency declared this morning in parts of Australia. Thousands fleeing as more than 200 fires rage in two of Australia's most populated states, killing at least 18 people. Firefighters driving through the inferno, shielding their windows with blankets as the flames engulf their vehicle.
While tens of thousands of people all over Australia are struggling to breathe as they take refuge on beaches, the skies over Sydney and all over the world were and are polluted by the very governments who want to nab more of your wealth for pet projects like AOC's Green New Steel in the US and UN global initiatives throughout the world. If these governments actually cared about the atmosphere, they'd stop dropping bombs all over the earth. Congressmen and senators and presidential candidates would stop jet-setting all over the countryside, trying to dupe people into voting. They'd end all the wars. They'd cease prohibitions on growing oxygen-emitting cannabis plants. And in short, governments would shut down the biggest gross polluters on the planet, themselves. Can you even think of a bigger waste of resources than government? Can you think of an entity that pollutes the environment on a grander scale than government? And we're going to listen to the talking head Greta Thunbergs of the world lecture us on how we need to be taking care of the planet when they don't care to lift a finger to do their part? Unless and until the government eliminates government, activists need to keep their mouths shut about how badly they want to save the planet as they try to coax us into begging those atmosphere-destroying governments to save us. Guys, help me combat YouTube's censorship and suppression algorithms by liking and sharing this video with everybody you can on social media. And if you like this video, maybe you'll like some of my other videos. Here are a couple you can watch while you're here. Please take a second to leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.